Nailed it.
All
All
right,
right, here we go.
here we
An
go.
inaugural
So,
podcast.
inaugural podcast. So, I'm Patrick Frazier.
I'm Robert Sykes. This is
Is
Arguments in Logic,
where we put the
Critic and Critical
critical
Thinking.
thinking. Yay.
That's right. This
Okay.
is
So,
episode 0. We are very new, and I'm sure nobody's going to ever watch this in a million years, but we
two and a
just
half.
do
Two and a
this for
half.
fun.
Now, although a full confession, we did do sort of a different iteration that is meant to die, I suppose, where I interviewed you. And the big faux pas I made real quick is I didn't actually go over the credentials of my interviewee.
That's
Uh,
right.
so now you've been promoted from being the interviewee to being the co-host. But that being said, do you want, I guess you should briefly talk about your credentials.
Who does stuff. I worked in information technology for quite a long time, have a long history of that sort of thing. I have a degree from Purdue Global in organizational management that I have been lately focused a lot on cybersecurity.
Oh, yay, cybersecurity, super in the news. Okay, I have a degree in economics. No, I'm a professional substitute. Yeah, I used to work for a bank, done a lot of salesy jobs. I'm going back to school for a second bachelor's degree because one wasn't enough. So now I'm studying engineering at UNLV and civil engineering. So anyway, here we go. And the name of our show is Arguments and Logic because arguments is a thing not only in philosophy, but also in mathematics and also in programming. And what we've come up with are some clickbait articles written by Robot Overlord. And
You
he,
will formerly know him as the AI.
yes,
Refer to him as the robot overlord. So some of us, like me, have given my will and my life over to the care of the robot overlord because I just think he knows better. Or
I,
she, or I'm not trying to identify for them. They know better.
well, yeah, we talked about this, but I'm super comfortable with the voice when you do the voice, the Siri kind of voice or Alexa type of voice, where it's a slightly condescending American woman voice. So I found it super cringe when the co-pilot changed their voice to this Irish American sounding voice. Not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let us change the voice a little bit. Come on, Microsoft, give us a little bit of interesting fun with that. Google did the same thing with some of their voices. They used to have I used to have one that I could make it kind of sounded like Michelle Obama. And I found comfort in that when she gave me directions. I felt like she knew where she was going most of the time. And so,
Yes.
when she gave me directions, I was like, this has to be the right way. Like, I don't care if the road's closed. Michelle Obama's telling me I should go this way. It's clearly the right way to go.
I like that. Yes, I tend to prefer having a woman tell me what to do, whether it's a robot overlord or not. But maybe that's some issues I have. I don't know. Speaking of which, what they came up with for our first clickbait
Yeah,
article,
what do we got? What do we got?
what do we got? So we got Elon Musk's trillionaire scheme, selling it all and rigging the election. How far will he go?
Man, that is a definite clickbait article. That is such a loaded question and such a great clickbait article.
Indeed.
Um, it's interesting because this is a good topic. Aside from all the election craziness, I'll let you go into that a little bit, but I just read a thing on him, his profits, a bunch of the profits from Tesla coming from charging stations and service and parts. And in 2016, I believe he said that they were never going to profit. Tesla would never profit off of service and parts, and especially not the supercharger network.
Mhm.
Full disclosure, some of that is because they've opened it up, the supercharger network, to other vehicles, and of course they're going to earn money off of other vehicles if you don't buy a Tesla. But it's just another instance of Elon Musk just saying whatever the hell he wants to get votes, to get people to sway to his opinion and having no truth behind it and just absolutely um, just lie. I mean, I don't know how else you say that. It's just him lying to people. I mean, do you? I don't know. Maybe I'm too harsh because I don't like the guy.
Well, let's see. Full disclosure, I own a little bit of Tesla, but it's minuscule in the grand scheme of things, and it's in an IRA that I run through Merrill Lynch, so whatever. It's self-funded by me. And I worked for him for a very brief period of time over a couple summers ago, I think it was. And of all the different,
Making batteries or something, right?
yeah, we were making the power wall at,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the thing that you get if you have their solar panels. Is that what that does?
yeah, and then you can plug
Yeah.
in your Tesla into it or
Okay.
yeah, and I think they make one of the better power walls on the market when you talk to people.
Mhm.
Don't quote me on that, but we could argue the merits of their EV versus, maybe the Rivian, which I think is made in Arizona. I haven't heard too many bad things about that, but I've also done zero research on the Rivian. That being said, he wasn't so terrible to work for. I never met the gentleman, but he's not a hero. He's not a villain. I think there is a potential issue with the manipulation of the election, and we'll see how that goes if Kamala Harris were to win the election, then that could be an issue. I think he's betting on the fact that he will succeed and then he will not be prosecuted. But I think PA has thrown out some hints that they are interested in prosecuting him for election fraud because you can't actually pay someone to vote. So I live in the state of Nevada. You may know it as Nevada, which is okay. But in Nevada or any of the swing states, if you sign a petition, if Robert here were to get me to sign a petition saying I support free speech and gun rights, then he could earn himself a quick 47 bucks and I might be eligible to win a lottery for $1 million.
For signing the petition, you would get the eligibility. Is that how it works? I know I've seen some of this in the headlines. I just don't know what the deal is because it seems like you would just get what you would do, what I would do if I were Elon Musk in that situation is I would just have my lawyers say things like, we're just incentivizing it. Like we're not actually paying anybody. It's no different than if I gave out cookies or bagels at some place and had a thing for people for petitions for people to sign. What's the difference, right? If I set up a stand that has coffee and cake and I have sign up this petition now, am I bribing people? No, I'm just incentivizing it. So that's what I think. That's where I think the argument will go and ultimately probably die in court like that is what I would guess.
I would guess so as well, but my understanding when I've seen TV lawyers discuss this is it's not a case without merit. For instance, coffee shops have tried a promotion which seems pretty benign. If you walk in with a I voted sticker, you get a free
Uh,
coffee, but it turns out that's a violation of election law
oh,
because
interesting.
yeah, you have to give the coffee to everyone. You can't just only give coffee to people who voted. So if you make it a benefit, it has to be for everyone. So you could do on election day, we will give coffee to everyone on election day or
So is that $1 million prize open to everyone or only if you sign the petition? I guess is the question, right?
yeah, my understanding is that you have to have registered in the swing state to be eligible. So,
Interesting. Well, if you know the answer, go ahead and put it in the comments section of all the people that are going to be watching this.
yes,
Um,
I'm betting on 2.5 people. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. Like,
If you know the answer, put it in there. Let's get
I've
this
learned,
party started.
yeah,
Uh,
following this election, I've learned a lot about probability, and I've created my own little forecast, and I'm betting on 2.5 people.
that's pretty good. That's ambitious at
That is,
best.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, I think the, part of this whole thing is that, his the seeming the seeming disregard he has for doing these kind of things and manipulating this kind of stuff. He has 200 million followers, and where do we, on Twitter, I think it's 202 million is the last I read. Um, I mean, that's the question, right? Like, where do we draw the line on these types of things? If someone has 100 million followers and they are tweeting out, buy this stock or buy this thing, and they're talking about their own publicly traded company, where is that line? Like, where is that line of it being manipulation? For the longest time, we've just kind of allowed this to go on. This isn't the first case of somebody with a lot of power in social media, um, trying to make a difference. This was done in, was it 2008? I
Mhm.
think Facebook is pretty notorious um, and Google for having some pretty interesting practices around searches and what they allowed Obama to do during the election. Like, I don't know for exactly what happened, but I know that there was a lot of support. And at what point can a publicly traded private company um, use their power the way they want to? That's the question.
Well, and then the other thing about him potentially becoming the first trillionaire is the whole idea of having a maximum amount of money that anyone can make and whether or not that should be a thing.
Yeah.
And I think what both of us decided when we discussed this before is that there shouldn't really be a maximum amount of money that anyone can make, but there, in an ideal world, there probably wouldn't be trillionaires. Like there's this whole idea of having competition in the market, and the more billionaires we have and the more trillionaires we have, then all else being equal, you have less competition, and that's not ideal for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think what is it called? Is it the G factor? Or maybe you know what it is. There's a factor that they use to determine the distribution of wealth within countries, right? And it's a factor of one would be all the wealth is in one person's hand and nobody else. And then that's kind of how they decide. Forget what it's called. I think it's the G factor. I'm probably wrong. But I saw a TED Ed video about this, and it really kind of like opened my mind to where we are as America and the rest of the world. Um, I think Patrick's doing some quick research on this for us, and we'll
Yeah,
find out
the
shortly.
yeah, I don't remember ever learning about the G factor in my little bachelor's of science and economics.
It is, maybe it's not the G factor. I don't know. I don't want to look it up right now, but there's a factor that they use, and ours is pretty bad in America. There's a inordinate amount. What it means is there's an inordinate amount of wealth skewed towards a small number of people. I mean, ideally, you want an even distribution of wealth or a somewhat even distribution of wealth because that's how it makes the economy stronger, right? If only
Right.
a few people have wealth, then the rest of us are just struggling, and it's really just bad for everyone involved. And so the idea of somebody having $1 trillion, I mean, for one, is it really necessary? Do you really need that amount of money? I don't think there should be a cap on it, but I think that I would hope that we have like responsible enough and like and that's the sad part about it is we just don't have responsible and conscientious enough people that would go, hey, you know, 200 billion is plenty. I don't need another 800 billion, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I looked it up. Yeah, you're on the ball in the this is from Google Gemini. When you Google something nowadays, Gemini comes up a lot of quite
You're
often.
not sponsored by Google Gemini, but we do like it.
We do like it, and we would take sponsorship, and I would. I have no, yeah, I would do that. But in that being the case, Gemini said it refers to the Gini coefficient, a widely used metric that measures the level of income or wealth inequality within a population. And actually, that sort of segues to the other kind of dovetail of this, not to do too much both sidism, but I think it merits mention in this particular case. There's some billionaires that are supporting Kamala Harris, like notably Mark Cuban, and that's a controversy with some of the more progressive or populist voices that would like to see a Democrat still in the White House. And that's because of someone named Leah Khan, who I think I want to say runs the Federal Trade Commission. So there's
Mhm.
controversy over whether or not Kamala Harris would terminate Ms. Khan, who has been pursuing companies like Alphabet that owns Google and trying to break them up, and Amazon and potentially Microsoft and that sort of thing. And Mark Cuban's position is that, oh, well, yeah, that's all well and good. But the thing is, the United States needs to beat China in AI and quantum computing. And in order to do that, we need these large monopoly, quasi-monopolistic companies like Alphabet. And if we have smaller companies that do that and we break up Alphabet, or Microsoft or whoever, then we wouldn't be able to do that. And that would mitigate our chances at beating China for the race for AI.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that argument, and that the thing is that we don't know. For one, I do think the FTC has been on this hell-bent mission of like trying to find some antitrust and trying to do something. They held the Blizzard Activision Microsoft merger for months and months and months, and honestly, I think it would still be held if the EU hadn't said no, we're gonna let this go and allowed them to merge and green lighted it before we did. There was really no good reason to stop that. Like, once you allowed Activision to buy Blizzard, so I mean, clearly that wasn't a problem. And now all of a sudden, because Microsoft was wanted in on it, then it was a problem. It's such a weird. I honestly I don't know what the FTC is doing. They seem to be kind of asleep at the wheel, and I think she should be fired, probably. I mean, this hell-bent mission of trying to find something wrong with this. There's competition. I mean, that's what you want. You have large companies, yes, very large companies, but do you have a monopoly? No, you don't. Not yet. If you do, if we do, then yeah, it's something you have to do. I mean, remember this whole thing was started so that we didn't have monopoly, so that we had competition, and there's plenty of competition right now.
Well, the case on the left is that since the era of Reagan, that there's been so much deregulation and less competition that we have a less fair economy than we would have otherwise had because of that deregulation. And so in theory, I think there's some merit to that argument. It's just to your point, if you're going to pursue a case against a company and potentially break them up or fine them or whatever else, there should be merit. It shouldn't just be in the name of saying, hey, we have too much monopolistic pricing power. which I want to say is the nerdy way, the nerdy and probably more accurate way to phrase it, because depending on what angle you look at a company like Alphabet, it may not actually be a monopoly. If you compare it to just the advertising space, which is more or less their revenue model, notwithstanding, Android and licensing revenue they get for various things. They're basically an advertising company, and from that vantage point, they're not a monopoly. But from the vantage point of, what's the go-to search engine, they're pretty much monopoly in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
but because they're the best,
uh,
I mean, and Microsoft has tried to compete, and Firefox tried to compete, and Yahoo tried to compete, and everyone's tried to compete, and they just don't do it as well. So you're going to punish this company because they're really good at what they do? I mean, that that just seems ridiculous to me. Like because they're so good at it, we're going to decide that that's there's no competition. There's plenty of competition. You can go use DuckDuckGo, or you can still use Yahoo, and you can still use Bing. But you know what the thing is they suck.
well,
They
and plus they have a lot of the same results that are fed back into those search engines.
hmm
The one of the big contentions in the case that I recall, the Leah Khan and whoever was representing her in court said is Alphabet pays a huge sort amount of money. I'm trying to think of the right noun for that. Anyway, they basically pay Apple to only have or to have Google as the default search engine. You can add other
hmm
search engines on it, but they pay Apple for that. And outside the United States, Android is actually more prevalent, but in the United States, that's a big thing to have every iPhone by default have Alphabet as the default search engine.
And
So.
that was so that's kind of a misnomer though, because I understand what she's saying, but she's wrong. The fact of the matter is Apple users wanted Google on there. It's a better search engine. Safari is terrible. The
Yeah.
search on Safari is terrible. So Apple, because it didn't want to lose the revenue, said, fine, if you guys want this, we know our consumers want this, we will do this, but you have to pay us. And so really the onus is on Apple on there because their stuff isn't as good and their end users liked the Google browser. They like Google Maps more,
Mhm.
right? There's a reason that that stuff is better as people want it. It's because it's better, And so I just have this vision of like 80s Mother Russia, 80s Mother Russia search engine. Cool. We have good search engine because we just crush all the search engines, and all we're going to do is provide a government search engine. It's
Right.
like called I don't know what it would be called, terrible probably. And it's just like really bad search results. The directions are always wrong. The place is always closed, you know. I mean, that's what you're talking about. That's really the only answer then. The answer is that you decide that, well, we've decided that a search engine is a public utility. It's something that needs to be provided by the government, and so we regulate it like we regulate power or water or everything else,
Right.
And so you could do something like that where you bring it under the guise of a public utility. The problem is that hasn't gone very well for anyone either.
Yeah.
Um, go to places where you have uh, two choices on internet service provider and they both suck, you know. That's where you end up with that kind of thing. And so I don't know. I think that I can see the argument. I can understand that it seems like it's a monopoly, but it's not. It's just stiff competition and has a high entry, right? There's a high cost of entry into that market. And if you want to be a player in the search engine world, you're going to have to come with a lot of money and ready. And go back to our beginning. I mean, that's one of the cool things about someone like Elon Musk, because he comes in and he disrupts those kind of markets. Like when he came in with Tesla, everybody laughed in his face. The big five automakers in the US just thought he was a lunatic and would be bankrupt in no time. Now we have all kinds of electric car manufacturers out there. We have Polestar and Rivian and
Mhm.
Tesla and whatever that Lucid and and a couple that have gone bankrupt, and so that's all it is. You're just waiting for some other company to come along and do it better than Google's doing it, and it'll shift.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is based off the romanticization of, speaking of Apple, of when Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and some other hippies from UC Berkeley went into his dad's garage and built the first Apple. And then, of course, Bill Gates up in Washington with Steve Allen, right? And who
Yeah.
also looked like a hippie back then. But I digress. What we'd like to see is, more disruptors. Maybe not AI. We're focusing on something that would be a really, really hard industry for someone to just be a startup in. There could be
Yeah.
a technological space where new guys come in. We saw some of that played out with the apps, and I don't know that the next big thing will be an app, but I'm sure disruptors will have opportunities in the technology space, but that's
Yeah,
what.
and not to mention that AI is a little overblown. I mean, here we are again with some new cool thing that's going to change the world and make everybody $1 million, and but you got to monetize it, and so we still aren't there's still no good way to monetize it. It's cool. I like it. I use it. I enjoy it. It uses a shit ton of computing power though. You want to talk about energy usage. You want to talk
Right.
about water usage for these servers and all that stuff. You know, we jumped on Bitcoin and Ethereum because they were using so much power to create cryptocurrency. I mean, these AI, you want to talk power utilization, AI, what was it, 1,000 GPUs or whatever that Elon Musk just brought online? How much power do you think that uses? Which we don't have enough of. And so, and again, like what do you do with it? It's cool. It helps. It's interesting. You have a plug-in. We use it sometimes at work. It's great for things like cybersecurity. Uh, but how do you monetize that to where you make a profit on this company? Like OpenAI, this is just all paper profits right now.
Right.
All it is.
Yeah, and to the point about energy, I guess that's why Microsoft is evidently, we'll see if it actually happens, is going to restart 3 Mile Island. Uh,
Yeah, they
so
want to. That's what I heard. Yeah,
And that also dovetails to some of the, speaking of clickbait articles, some of the videos and clickbait articles about how AI is going to take over everything. But there's a real constraint or bottleneck with not only energy, but also water usage, because it's just like looking at one of those gamer desktop computers that someone makes. You have to do these elaborate cooling systems, and it takes up a lot of water.
yeah,
And so there's a
yeah.
huge environmental impact that until they solve that problem, I don't think we have to worry about Skynet.
Not too much. I mean, yeah, and that's the whole thing. I mean, well, we're getting close to the singularity, right? Is what they think is 2032 was the last estimate I thought I heard. But we'll see what happens. Oh, it looks like we're running out of time.
Yes, we're running on the 10-minute wait because
Wow, man, we are just really talking this through.
we are. Speaking of
Uh,
which, if one of our,
2.5.
yeah, if one of, I'm so unprofessional, I'm getting a phone call from Scam Likely, by the way. Scam
Oh, hey,
Likely,
Scam Likely, how's it going? Are
yeah,
you a
anyway.
subscriber?
But I don't think Scam Likely will know the answer. But if one or two of the of our audience members is an actual podcaster, yeah, you could throw your brothers some hints on what video software to use going
We've
forward.
been researching that. We would really like to use some software that it seems like a steep learning curve.
Yes.
I do technology for a living, but and we can learn it, but if anyone sees this that does this for a living and we would love to hear from you and give us some tips and tricks and hints, whatever you want. I will work on your PC for you.
Right. And I have actually no value proposition. If your kid really needs some help with the quadratic formula, uh,
Patrick's your man. If you
I could
need
stand on a
to,
desk and talk about it, but there's probably, you'd probably be better off going to Khan Academy. I'll be,
yeah, that's a solid plug for Khan Academy. It's
yeah, who I would also take as a sponsor, but no, that's one of the more legitimate not-for-profits out there. But anyway, I,
so
I
yeah,
was gonna,
yeah.
I would,
Let's do that next topic real quick since we got to wrap up here in 8 minutes, it looks like.
yes, and on that note, I was gonna talk about something super not controversial, like Hamas and Israel. But you know what? I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. Instead, what was the?
Wait, before we go, should we get your prediction for the upcoming election? Because this is being filmed
Oh, right.
November 3rd.
Yes. As a
Election's 2 days away. Everybody vote if you
yes,
haven't. And by the way, you could earn money from Elon Musk by voting,
you
apparently.
can. Let's, I'm mildly optimistic to just reveal my biases. I guess I'm a newly minted independent voter, so while I did vote for Harris, if she wins, I'll be rooting for America and not for a particular team. So, call me a commie or whatever, but I'm now an independent voter, okay? So.
Yeah,
Anyway, but
that's
I did vote
cool.
for her. Those are my biases. But Ann Seltzer, who evidently is the goat of pollsters, like if you are such a nerd that you have like pollsters on your door,
GOAT is greatest of all time for anybody that doesn't know, by the way. I
yeah.
didn't know that for
Oh,
a long time, and I was like, why do they keep calling Michael Jordan a GOAT?
I didn't know
So,
until some Gen Z kids told me as a teacher. They're
yeah,
like, "You're the goat, Patrick. You're the goat." I was like, "What? What?" Like, now I just take it as self-evident that like
that's
every
awesome.
yeah.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you're making a difference out there. See, like Patrick undersells it, but he's making a difference. If a kid calls you the GOAT, you're making a difference. Either that or you're just giving him A's. Whatever.
Yeah,
Either way,
they were manipulating me is probably, but or no, they were great kids. They meant well. But if you have a poster of like Nate Silver or who's great or Nate Cohn, the other Nate, no. Ann Seltzer is your go-to. She's the go-to pollsters out of Iowa. She only does Iowa. She's only been wrong, I guess, once about her prediction on Kerry in 2004 that it looked like Kerry was going to win Iowa.
oh yeah, win Iowa.
Yeah. Anyway, but other than that, she's pretty much on the money, and she had Harris actually pulling out 3 points ahead in Iowa. So, and that's a big part of the rationale for that, she said, was because of old white women over 65 who are furious about Roe v. Wade being overturned, are coming out
Yeah.
large numbers voting for Harris. And if that happens in the other swing states in sufficient numbers, then we have Harris as the next president. And if Ann Seltzer is not the GOAT and she has let us down, then Trump will be the next president. I mean, we have a super cool system called the Electoral College. And basically, I'm in one of the 7 states that matters. And that's what it is. But as far as my prediction, I'm thinking that Ann Seltzer might be right again. And then the big question would be what happens between now and what is it, January 21st, 22nd? I don't
Mm,
potentially the 47th president would be inaugurated. It's going to be chaos. If you didn't like the election, you're really not going to like season two. Like season
yeah.
two of this election is going to be worse.
The
So,
post school. Yeah.
yes, exactly. But
Yeah.
that being
As
said,
they try to suss out who actually won and counting votes. And if you thought 2000 was bad, welcome. If you're not that old and you don't know what it was, look it up. We have this thing out there called a search engine, and you can learn information.
You
By the
can.
way, you don't have to use Google for that. You can try a different one. They're not as
Yeah,
good, but
Bing is fine. I take Bing, Microsoft as a sponsor.
Bing always feels like the creepy uncle to me. Like he's cool, he's around, but the answers that he gives you are just kind of weird and like off topic a lot of times, and you're just like, I just wanted to know what kind of cheese you liked, bro. Like,
But if Microsoft becomes our sponsor, you're going to take all those words back.
I love Microsoft. Don't even get me wrong. This is why I can talk freely about them. I have grown up with Microsoft. I am a Microsoft fanboy for sure. Um, so well, before we go, since we're running out of time, real quick, I just want to talk about since we're on the election, like
Right.
how difficult it was. I sat down yesterday with my ballot and my
All right.
book, and I'm trying to find information. I text you about this. I'm trying to find information on Prop 36 because it says the summary is something like, will change the language of the drug convictions and what is constituted as a hardcore drug and time and the sentences related to it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's crazy vague. Like, what is, is the law? And so, like, I go out to the voting bureau thing, the government site. I can't find the actual written law. I Google it. I can't really find the written law. I'm like, and I'm doing this on my phone because I'm at the kitchen table, which I hate. I hate using my phone as a computer a lot. So I finally go to my actual computer and I sit down on Google, and it took me, a few tries to find. I finally found the actual PDF of the law as it was proposed to be written and what was going to be struck down and what was not going to be struck down. And I'm like, why is that so difficult? Why can't it just be a really easy side by side like we do in coding? Like, this is what it used to be, this is what it is now. And make it easy on me as a voter so I don't have to spend 14 minutes trying to figure it out. Anyways, that's Rob's rant for this episode. Well, it looks like we're just about out of time, Patrick.
Uh,
Um,
the answer to Rob's question is there's no incentive for making information readily available to you, the voter. And yes, I was going to transition to a
why
fun
is that though? Shouldn't change that, America? Change
change
that.
that. But that being said, that will be something we might explore on episode 1 or 2 or whatever it's
Yes,
called.
episode the next coming. Because we're gonna keep this thing rolling for all you for 2.5 of you that are out there.
Yeah, because we
This is
love
us.
you.
I'm Robert Sykes.
I'm Patrick Frazier.
Thank you for watching Arguments and Logic. Have a good one.
Peace.